Manx Radio's Update with Christian Jones.
Fastamai, good evening. It's Wednesday the 9th of April and this is Manx Radio's Update. Welcome into 30 minutes of all the latest news, sport and travel compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's newsroom tonight. We'll hear why health officials are urging people of all ages to take bowel cancer symptoms seriously. The disease is the second most commonly diagnosed invasive cancer on the island. The Chief Minister says EU artificial intelligence laws won't be adopted here anytime soon. And the Isle of Man swimming team is revealed for this year's Island Games. As always, do get in touch if you want to comment on anything you hear. Text WhatsApp to 166 177 or email studio@manxradio.com. First of all, though, the headlines with Chanel Suku.
Fastamai. Public Health Isle of Man is urging residents not to ignore the signs of bowel cancer regardless of their age. It comes as part of Bowel Cancer Awareness Month, with calls for earlier action and better awareness of symptoms like bleeding, persistent abdominal pain and changes in bowel habits.
People who have a more sedentary lifestyle might be more likely to get bowel cancer.
The Department of Home Affairs says it's looking at a range of options as alternatives to custodial sentences as the Isle of Man prison remains overcrowded. The Derby facility can accommodate 167 prisoners, but as of this week, that number has reached 160. And the Chief Minister says there are no plans to bring in EU legislation on artificial intelligence during this administration. The legislation came into force in August last year and evaluates the risks posed by AI applications and promotes regulatory compliance. In international news, China's rising taxes to 84% on American products, with the European Union also voting to back measures to counter Donald Trump's tariffs. Markets in the US are broadly stable. 7 police officers have been taken to hospital after a crash on the A1. Patrol cars had been pursuing a driver near Newcastle earlier this morning. And a report suggesting Channel Tunnel train fares could get 30% cheaper if demand grows. Yesterday, another company came forward to challenge Eurostar's monopoly. Those are your headlines. News at 6.
Thanks, Chanel. Now let's take a look at the weather, brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. Dry and sunny this evening with light winds and temperatures down to around 3 degrees Celsius overnight. Continuing fine and dry tomorrow with unbroken sunshine and a gentle breeze. In the afternoon, temperatures will be rising to around 15 degrees Celsius.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
If you run a small business or just need more room in the back, Philshore Vehicles has the perfect van or light commercial for all your needs and can sort out any finance. Based in the Tremode Estate, view philshorevehicles.im or call 49 51 49.
A great night's sleep got even better with Zed's Bedding Store. From quality Bell-Dorm bed linen and mattress protectors, fleece and woven throws to luxury duvets from the fine bedding company, Zed's Bedding Ramsey, next to Isle of Man Bank.
SMS Trading have moved to 3 St Paul's Square, Ramsey. For flat pack to fully built, new or second-hand furniture, SMS Trading offer all-island delivery and man-in-a-van service. Call 315151 or find SMS Trading on Facebook.
At Begode Cattery, we have been caring for animals for over 50 years. As a cattery, we care for customers' cats and treat them as our own. Contact Begode Cattery on 676 947 or find Begode Cattery on Facebook.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
4 minutes past 5 now, and bowel cancer is the second most commonly diagnosed invasive cancer on the Isle of Man, and health officials are warning that it's not just a disease that affects older adults. As part of Bowel Cancer Awareness Month, Public Health is encouraging people of all ages to be alert to the symptoms and seek medical advice without delay. The disease is highly treatable if caught early, and both GPs and pharmacists are urging anyone with concerns to come forward. Pippa, who was diagnosed with stage 2 colon cancer at just 24, says it's vital not to ignore the warning signs.
Like a lot of people, I believed I was way too young to get cancer, let alone bowel cancer. So I think it was just disbelief that myself, I've been always very active, tried to eat and live a healthy lifestyle, and I was shocked that I had bowel cancer. I was very lucky and they caught mine very early, so I had surgery which removed all of the tumour, and I'm now here just under active surveillance but with all the cancer removed. So being able to be caught as soon as possible with just the surgery needed, that was huge in my case. You're never too young, so if you have any symptoms that can be a sign of bowel cancer, it's important to not assume it's something minor and just to go get to your GP or a healthcare professional and ask them.
Pippa speaking there, and routine screening is currently offered to those aged 60 to 75, but Public Health says awareness is key at any age. Dr Ross Keat, the Director of Public Health, was asked whether the current screening age is too narrow in light of calls for greater awareness among younger people.
So our data shows that bowel cancer is more common in the older population at the moment, and we don't have data which suggests a noticeable increase in bowel cancers amongst younger people. But we're also aware that it's very important to be aware of symptoms and to be making sure that you're capable of checking these symptoms yourself, and through that awareness you're able to spot any potential changes sooner. We understand that there's some research going on in the United Kingdom at the moment, and that research is being used to inform potentially reducing the screening age over there, and we'll probably likely find that that research is relevant on the Isle of Man as well. So it's all a case of sort of reviewing that data and seeing how it applies to our population here. We're currently undertaking a clinical review of all of our screening programs over the next 12 months. So there's a number of screening programs which are used for adults and a number of screening programs which are used for younger children and pregnant mothers. So we're looking at all of these together and ensuring that all our services are underpinned by the best scientific evidence and advice. Obviously, within scope of this will be a review of the bowel cancer screening programme, and we're going to make sure that we engage with all our relevant stakeholders and the public to provide assurance on any future recommended changes.
Deputy Director of Public Health, Dr Ross Keat speaking there. 7 minutes past 5 now. And it turns out the island could be losing quite a bit of money each year from parking fines that go unpaid, particularly by non-Manx registered vehicles. They're being fined, but not everyone coughs up. Douglas North MHK John Wannenberg raised the issue directly with the Infrastructure Minister Michelle Haywood. Here's what she had to say.
In terms of parking tickets issued to non-Manx registered vehicles, during the period 1st of April 2022 to the 31st of March 2023, there were a total of 735 parking tickets issued. Within that total, 372 tickets with a value of £23,430 were paid, and 363 tickets with a value of £20,850 remain outstanding. During the period 1st of April 2023 to the 31st of March 2024, there were a total of 916 parking tickets issued to non-Manx registered vehicles. Within that total, 388 tickets with a value of £24,270 were paid, and 528 tickets with a value of £30,990 remain outstanding. During the period 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of March 2025, there were a total of 744 parking tickets issued to non-Manx registered vehicles. Within that total, 295 tickets had a value of £18,570 and they've been paid, and 449 tickets with a value of £23,550 remain outstanding. Unfortunately, the department is not able to pursue unpaid parking tickets if it does not have details of the registered owner, because they are held by the UK DVLA. However, it will undertake periodic checks as to whether the vehicle has then been registered in the island.
Minister, are we going to have to accept that people who get parking tickets from across on the island and then go back across are going to get away with it? Or they may not even go back across, we just can't get hold of their details?
At the moment, we don't have a data sharing agreement with the DVLA in the UK, and we can't get hold of their details for this.
Any future in doing that? Can we make a case?
there's obviously scope for looking at the legislation around this to see if we can do something in the future that
It's a
addresses
lot of money,
this.
isn't it?
It is a fair amount of money, yes.
Well, we're talking about tens of thousands of pounds.
Well, yeah, but we also have tens of thousands of pounds for people on the island who don't pay their parking. So the question today was specifically about UK registered plates. We've just agreed with the cause that actually they're going to start pursuing some of the unpaid parking fines that belong to Manx residents
That's
as well.
what I thought. When they go across and get a parking fine and come back to the island, do they get away with it at the moment?
At the moment they get away with it, yeah.
But we're going to make sure they don't get away with it.
We're going to try.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
10 minutes past 5, and let's turn our attention to the Education Minister Daphne Kane, who's come under fire for the amount of redacted information in a review of school meals. We've spoken about this before on Update, if you remember. That was the report that was delayed numerous times. Then it was published, but 113 of the total 159 pages had content blacked out and censored. One of you even commented asking if the document contained war plans or if this was just about food in schools. Well, since then, backbenchers have poured scorn on the resulting document, as John Moss explains.
This was a case of this you can see, no, this you can't. A review into school meals on the island for the Education Department has heavy redaction, blacked out sections designed to be kept secret, but it led to a flurry of anguish from some members in Keys saying the amount redacted added up to, well, redactio ab absurdum.
The purpose of the internal document was to inform departmental policy. As such, prior to its publication, it was treated as though we'd had a Freedom of Information request. The following exemptions were applied in line with the Freedom of Information Act, and therefore details were redacted from the published review concerning formulation of policy, conduct of public business, qualified exempt personal information, and economy and commercial interests.
What's happened is that the report has now been rendered completely meaningless by the redactions that have been applied. Nobody can get any information out of it.
The school meals review is a lengthy document and it required significant redaction ahead of publication.
The idea then that the department has decided to redact everything related to the development and formulation of policy is somewhat absurd. How is Tynwald supposed to engage with the department in the development and formulation of policy when the department has decided that all Tynwald needs to see is pages upon pages upon pages of blacked out text?
The commission and the terms of reference for this review were established before I was in this post, and the report that was produced was unfortunately not in a way that could be made public.
Does she accept that excessive redaction undermines public scrutiny, and what steps by the Secret Squirrel Department are being taken to improve transparency in the publication of official reports?
There is still a wealth of information that is publicly available and indeed being used by the department to press ahead with reviewing a focus review on our school meals service. It's not excessive redaction, it is in line with the principles of the Freedom of Information Act.
Can she also state when an unredacted report will come forward to Tynwald Court? Because there should be nothing sensitive in a meals review report.
Education Minister Daphne Kane taking questions from backbenchers there. This has got many of you talking, actually. So, do you think blacking out information is justified, or does that affect transparency? You can text 166 177. Now, the Chief Minister says there are no plans to bring in EU legislation on artificial intelligence during this administration. The legislation came into force in August last year and evaluates the risks posed by AI applications and promotes regulatory compliance. Sean Cowper has the details.
The EU's Artificial Intelligence Act classifies applications by their risk of causing harm, with those rated with an unacceptable risk banned in the EU. It also established an AI board to promote compliance across the EU nations. But of course, we're not in the EU, so should the Isle of Man be doing something similar? It's a question Russian MHK and Speaker of the House of Keys, Juan Watterson, submitted in written form to the Chief Minister. Alfred Cannon confirmed government won't be introducing the laws here or adopting elements from the European regulation, but is considering a comprehensive AI strategy for the Isle of Man, which will be presented to Tynwald in due course. Mr Cannon says the priority here will be to establish a balanced approach that encourages AI development while ensuring appropriate safeguards, drawing inspiration from successful frameworks implemented by comparable and best-in-class nations. He adds that government recognises the importance of the EU legislation, but that the island's approach will be to create a bespoke solution that addresses the unique needs and challenges facing the Isle of Man. It's hoped the Manx framework will enhance the island's competitive advantage, support innovation and protect citizens' interests.
Sean Cowper with that report. Let's turn our attention to the travel.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
couple of things to be aware of. On the Mountain Road is closed between the bungalow and the Creggan Bar until Friday. Next week, the road will close from the bungalow to Ramsey on Monday at 9:30 through till Thursday, 24 hours a day, but businesses on the mountain will be open as normal. In Crosby, temporary lights on the main road for street light improvement work between the Crosby Crossroads and Moran Church. In Onchan, temporary lights on King Edward Road near the Majestic Drive turn for pavement work. In Douglas, temporary lights on Summerhill near the bottom of the hill, that's for gas work. And in Cueg until Wednesday next week, temporary lights on the old Castletown Road near the brewery for wastewater upgrade work. Of course, if there is anything you spot while you're out and about, do let us know. Text to 166 177 or email studio@manxradio.com. Over at the Steam Packet, nothing to be aware of there. At the airport, there are a couple of minor delays there. On the arrivals board, the 5:50 Manchester won't be landing until 6:15. Also, the 8:15 Liverpool is delayed until 8:40. And on the departures board, the 6:20 Liverpool won't be taking off until 6:45.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at Quayside. You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
16 minutes past 5 now, and it's almost 2 years since the planned closure of Cummelmore residential home in Ramsey was put on hold to allow time for a replacement to be built. In the House of Keys this week, one of the town's MHKs, Laurie Hooper, asked the Health Minister Claire Christian for an update on plans for a new facility.
The Honourable Member will be pleased to know that I was able to visit Cummelmore on the 27th of March and to see firsthand the hard work of the dedicated staff in creating a welcoming and homely environment for the residents. And I wish to put on record my thanks to them for their time and also their continued efforts in making it such a wonderful, wonderful place for the people of the Isle of Man. The department would expect to bring proposals to this court before the summer recess, in line with the commitment made by previous ministers. As the Honourable Court will be aware, the project to replace Cummelmore was already in the detailed design phase when I was appointed as Minister. And progress has been made, and we remain committed to a facility which best meets the needs of the people of Ramsey and the Isle of Man. And I would like to reassure the public again that it is our intention to have a replacement for Cummelmore and that we are making it a priority and reviewing progress with the project team in the coming weeks. We know more now than before about the local population, thanks to our colleagues in public health, and have been able to set strategic direction through the mandate and operating plan, which aims to keep people at home as long as safely as possible. That means that we want to review the design together with our colleagues in Manx Care and, importantly, those on the ground providing the service now, to ensure that it is flexible and appropriate enough to meet the needs now and in the future. It is critical that those responsible for providing the service are involved in these discussions. It may be that the design is indeed the correct one, but I would like to take stock with the department members and officers, the Treasury and Department of Infrastructure and those I have just spoken about who provide the service in the very near future to ensure that we get it right with what would be a very significant capital project for the island.
Health Minister Claire Christian speaking there. And it's not long now until the local authority elections take place later this month, and a candidate in the upcoming election says he would be looking to improve Douglas Council's housing stock if elected. This is William Smedley, a businessman who's previously served as a parish councillor in England and hopes to use his experience to make the local authority's budget and spending transparent.
What made you decide to stand?
Partly giving back to being here, but also my background as an architect, and more particularly I spent a lot of my career working in social housing, and I can see that there is a need to expand the housing stock in the city. Not only that, but also to look at more inventive ways of providing housing accommodation in the city. And mixed-use buildings work, and what that can do. Say, for example, there was to be residential dwellings introduced into the city centre itself, Strand Street and so on. Then it would bring vibrancy in the evening. There's an opportunity because there are spare buildings, there are upper floors that aren't used. They could be used for valuable housing accommodation for probably younger people, singles or couples. But that's a good way of providing accommodation, whether it's social, whether it's council-owned, or whether it's shared ownership or outright sale. It can all work. The other thing we need to do is to make sure that the housing stock is looked after. If it falls into disrepair, then it becomes endangered and is subject to sale for redevelopment or demolition. That was one of my main focuses. But also linked with that is to promote sustainable development and green energy initiatives, better use of recycling. I know that we have a recycling centre, I use it, but I'm sure we can do more with it. And the other thing that's happening at the moment on the island is we're losing a lot of trees. Urban green spaces are important in the city and we can make more of them. But also we need to make public more aware of what the council does, make sure that the budget that we set and the way we spend it is transparent.
William Smedley speaking there. The other candidates standing are Stephen Crellin, David Cretney and Karel Verelst. Right, a powerful short film, just 10 minutes in length, was screened in Port Erin recently, tackling the emotional subject of dementia. But beyond its storyline, the production has sparked fresh hope for those calling for the revival of filming activity on the island, thanks to the support it received and its use of Manx locations. At a pre-London screening at the Erin Arts Centre, producer Evelyn Sharples said the film was only possible with the support from the Manx Arts Council.
I met a few people from the Isle of Man, including Mira, our associate producer.
What, over here?
Over in London, but she'd been travelling sort of backwards and forwards for work and different things, and we met on other projects. She was a composer on one of my old projects, and then we were talking about the Isle of Man, and then knew about the Arts Council funding for the film here and wanted to find a project that would showcase the island.
So what came first, the idea or the desire to work in the island?
Depends who you ask. For me, it was the desire to work on the island and wanting to find the right project. For Adam, the idea was there already.
This is the director, Adam.
Yeah, the director, Adam. So he'd written the script and
had he
this
already
idea.
written the script?
He'd already written the script, not in this final way, but he had the idea in the script.
So it was bringing the script over to the island and setting it in the island?
Yes, exactly. Thankfully, we had the funding from the Isle of Man Arts Council, and we have a couple of executive producers that backed us as well.
Do you think there's a future for, once again, a film industry here?
Oh, there's got to be. The island's stunning, and there's so much here, and incredible talent here. So,
but it needs support from the government in financial terms to get people over here.
Yeah, absolutely. It needs that. Like, that's what got us over here, that financial support from the government, and more investment in that way would be ideal to bring the movie industry back to life on the Isle of Man.
And as we know, there was that Tynwald petition for a rolling funding worth £20 million to be given each year to kickstart the film industry on the island again. That was withdrawn from the Tynwald sitting. So far it hasn't returned, so I imagine it might be a watch this space to see if anything happens in the future.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Let's turn our attention to sport now, and the Isle of Man swimmers for this year's Island Games have been named. With the competition taking place in Orkney this summer, preparations are well underway. A full squad announcement's now been made. The details with sports editor Rob Pritchard.
Isle of Man Swimming has confirmed 15 competitors will take to the pool at this summer's event in Orkney from the 12th to the 18th of July. 8 have been selected for the women's events, with 7 representing the island in the men's category. Just over half of those involved this time around were part of the successful squad which competed in the last games in Guernsey in 2023. At those games, the Isle of Man claimed 15 medals in swimming, 9 gold, 4 silver and 2 bronze. Only Jersey and the host Guernsey finished above them in the standings. In the female squad for the Isle of Man this year, returning again to compete, having been in the game set up 2 years ago, are Laura Kinley, Ciara Prentice, Libby Curfey, Chloe Batty and Lauren Dennett. New additions for 2025 to that team will be Zoe Newitt, Kaya Reynolds and Olivia Williamson. Meanwhile, returning again to be part of the men's lineup are Joel Watterson, Magnus Kelly, Alex Turnbull and Zach Bellhouse. Coming in for 2025 will be Jamie Farnan, Charlie Foster and Harry Robinson. The latter of those, Harry Robinson, represented the Isle of Man at the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham in 2022. Meanwhile, the swimming schedule for Orkney 2025 at the Pickercoy Centre in Kirkwall has also been revealed. It'll consist of a training day on Sunday the 13th of July, before events take place between Monday the 14th of July and Friday the 17th of July. The programme does remain subject to change.
There we have it, and Rob joins us now, and you just mentioned there that the schedule's been announced. What can you tell us about that, first of May?
Yes, sir. Faster Miser. Yep. As I alluded to just then, the schedule for the 2025 Island Games in Orkney from the 12th to the 18th of July has just been released. After the opening ceremony on the evening of the 12th, the sporting action begins the day after on the 13th with athletics, badminton, football, lawn bowls, sailing, squash and triathlon getting started. Archery, swimming, gymnastics, golf and swimming are then due to begin on Tuesday, the 14th of July. For the cycling events, the time trial is the first of those on Tuesday the 14th between 11am and 3:30pm. The day after is the mountain bike short track race from 2pm until 5pm. The road race is then scheduled from Thursday the 16th of July between 10:30am and 4:30pm. The day after that is the mountain bike criterium. That's due to be held between 10am and 4pm in that afternoon. And finally, there's the town centre criterium on Saturday the 18th of July, so the final day of competition between 1pm and 4pm. The closing ceremony is currently scheduled on that Saturday at 8 o'clock at night. Well, you can see more detailed timings for each sport on the Orkney 2025 Games website. The schedule does remain subject to change, potentially at short notice. Elsewhere in motorsport, John McGuinness says he wants to keep riding and keep smiling following Honda Racing UK's first official BSP testing sessions in Spain. The 23-time TT winner was one of 5 riders at the team out on track at Navarra, which also included fellow road racer Dean Harrison. Whilst McGuinness racked up laps and miles on his superbike and super stock machinery, Harrison had the chance to alternate between his road racing setup and also the British Supersport CBR 600. Well, following the sessions, McGuinness is describing the bikes as great and competitive. During TT 2024, the Morecambe man managed top 10 finishes in all 3 races he contested. His best results saw him finish 5th in the senior TT, whilst he managed 6th and 7th in the Superbike and Super Stock races respectively. And finally, the Isle of Man Women's Masters hockey side has been beaten during a thrilling semi-final encounter in the England Hockey Championships. The Island's over 45 side suffered a 7-3 defeat up against Oxford Hawks during the last 4 phase of the EH Women's over 45s Tier 3 Championships. Donna Harrison was the star for the Manx squad in front of goal, bagging a hat-trick during the clash at University of Cumbria in Lancaster.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Rob. Slightly disappointing that you're not featuring in the swimming at the Island Games, though, but, I can dream, I suppose. That is all up for Update this evening. Thanks to newsreader Chanel Suku. If there's anything you heard tonight that you want to find out in a bit more detail, head over to our podcast section. We've got a wide range of podcasts, including the Manx Newscast. Later on this evening, Spotlight with Howard Kane, and he'll be taking a closer look at the Archibald Knox exhibition that's on display over at the Manx Museum. Greatest Hits with Chris Kinley immediately after that. Andy Wimp will be back on the air from 9. And finally, Dave Moore has After Hours. I'll be back with you on Update tomorrow. So until then, take care. Bye-bye for now.